How to teach kids to listen. Don't you? I think this is such a needed skill that I'm dumbfounded and amazed that schools and moms, parents, don't spend quality time teaching their kids the skills of active listening. So that's what this video is about. I have 3 things for you today to equip you to teach your kids how to listen. Now, I don't have this 100% nailed in my own house. It's an active training thing that we do with our kids. But I'm going to start by giving you the secret sauce lesson. And the secret sauce lesson is this thing called the do-over. From as little as your kids can pay attention, teach your kids to do something again, to do it over. You set up a quick little training where you have your child sit on the ground and you call them over to you and you have them practice doing it wrong, stomping their feet and having a fit. And then you say, oh, do over. And then they go sit back down and then you call them again. The trick of the do over is it gives your kids dignity and grace to rewind the tape, if you're old enough to remember tapes that rewind, to rewind the tape and to do something over. And with active listening, our kids need the opportunity to kind of catch their breath and practice doing things right. Practice following directions. Practice how do you redo something after you make a mistake. So teaching your kids how to listen begins with understanding the power of the do-over. This is a magic parent training that I did not learn until I had 5 kids and I had needed to know it for a few years. So if your kids are still little, you're welcome in advance. We still use the do-over, even though my kids are 16 and older. If they roll their eyes, if they give a little bit of attitude, or they argue and complain, we simply say do-over, the kids back up, and then they repeat the scene properly. Okay. If they refuse to do it at that point, then you get to ramp up your parenting expertise and your parenting training tactics. But 92% of the time, once the kids are trained how to do it over, they see it as an opportunity to just do it better, do it right. And the key, the trick is to practicing it when everybody's happy, everybody's well fed, and everybody's in a good mood. So we practice this kind of training first thing in the morning, after breakfast, for like 2 to 5 minutes, a couple times a week. And it was magic, secret sauce. So, how to teach your kids to listen, the first is the do over, because that is part of it, just having this trusted relationship with your kids so that they actually are actually listening, right? If you ask them to go pick up their shoes and they run across the room and they pick up the pillow, well, they didn't quite get what they needed to do. So you say, let's do that over, listen again, go pick up your shoes. And then they go do it again. And they go, oh, let's practice one more time. Go put your shoes back over there, put the right, just practice the do over. The second thing, play games that require active listening. These are the good old fashioned games of playing telephone. You know, when you whisper something simple in somebody's ear and then they whisper it in somebody else's ear and then they whisper it in somebody else's ear. You learn the power of careful listening by doing that with just 3 or more kids. It's super funny, but it's also super powerful for them to realize how hard it is to keep your attention so that you're really paying attention to what somebody says and then relaying it properly. So you want to become a collector of games that you play with your kids, not for school, but just for fun, where they have to practice active listening. These are the classic games of red light, green light, or Mother May I, right? So those active listening games where the kids listen, and then they do, and you giggle, and everybody's having a good old time. But you're practicing the art of listening. It's so important that we listen to our kids. I watched an amazing TED Talk this morning. You'll have to look it up. Go to TED Talk, type in listening, and there's a one given by a 7-year-old little girl, and she teaches the power of the game peekaboo. Oh, it was so great. But the necessity of kids not only playing these games and learning to listen, but how much it helps build our relationships with our kids, which is so important to their entire life success. So the first thing we do is do over, the next thing we do is play. And the very last thing is kind of a Becky thing, but I have found this to be super secret. Okay, super secret. See if you can figure out what it is. Draw. Pick up a pen and a piece of paper. When you want to talk to your kids, you want to get them to listen, doodle on a piece of paper. There is something, and now don't tell me that you can't draw. I dropped a link to the gal that taught me how to doodle. And see this? She taught me how to doodle. The power of looking at a piece of paper or a whiteboard and actually drawing, while something simple gives your kids something to focus on without this laser mom staring at you. She's going to tell you something important. Okay, this is extremely uncomfortable for kids, just like it is for us too. But when we can direct attention to something different, something indirect that the kids are like, oh, teach me how to draw a rocket ship, Mom. Oh, okay. Well, we can totally do that. We'll totally do that after. I can get the lid off my cap. I forgot this little line. It's secret sauce in helping your kids focus. I've done this with all kinds of things, when I taught in the classroom. And I got to tell you, kids are super forgiving. The more you make the doodles or the drawings simple, and even ridiculous, purposely make silly mistakes. Your kids will be like, oh, haha, dogs don't have 7 legs, or whatever. They appreciate that you're doing something to help them focus, but that it doesn't have to be perfect. And so in this whole thing of teaching kids how to listen, number one, teach them what to do when they don't get it right. That's the power of the do-over. Number two, make it an active, normal part of playtime so that you're doing games. Even there's a super fun, if you just take a piece of paper and you hide your hands, like you can't see where my hands are. So if we take a piece of paper and I say, okay, fold it in half, and they do that behind them, fold it in half again, tear off the bottom right-hand corner, open it up, draw a star on the left, and you give them different directions, and then give them 7, 8 different directions. If they're older, do like a dozen. When you're all done, okay, let's see if your paper looks exactly like mine. Everybody opens up and reveals their piece of paper. I did that in classrooms, but when I had my 5th and 6th grade classes, just for a couple years in a classroom. And 100% of the time, every single person's paper in the classroom was different than mine. And that's because we don't exercise the power of listening. When we're in a conversation, when we're in a room and somebody's talking, you have to remember that we speak at about 200 to 250 words a minute, but our brains can hear twice that speed. Some of your kids, like I've got a kid that his brain goes 3 times. So what your brain does is it fills in the extra space. They're listening to you at your 200, 250 words a minute speed, but their brain is filling in all the extra space in between your words. So this art of listening is something that we have to teach our kids how to do, how to slow down, how to be present, to actually pay attention to people when they're speaking. and to be listening, not to reply, but to listen and to learn. It's so important that our kids learn to do this. Hmm. We might need to practice this as well too, because we live in a world that is surrounded by distraction. Oh, it's worse for our kids. I'm old enough to remember answering machines, no cell phones, the ability that you had to be home at a certain time at night. Otherwise, you would miss that show, miss that movie for good because there were no recording devices. Our kids don't live in that world. They're bombarded by input. And so there's a lot of noise, and they need to practice attentive listening. And we do this through the art of play and through the art of fun. And that way, you do this as part of your regular routine. And then when they mess up, because they will, because they're normal, then you have the secret. You just tell them to do it over, and then they back up and then they try it again. Because we want to be attentive. We want our kids to be attentive, and we want to be able to listen. Our world needs us to be great listeners. We need to connect with the people on the other side of the phone, of the line, of the counter. We need to not just be waiting to reply, but actually to be engaging into what other people are saying. And our kids will learn that from us at home. So we want to teach our kids how to listen. And the three things: you do it with the do-over, teach them young and practice that often. Play games, especially as they get older, just make them more complicated. Give them more things to listen to, more things to remember. And then embrace the power of doodling. I'm telling you, it's secret sauce. It's magic. So anyway, I'm Becky with A Better Way to Homeschool. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. You've listened this far. Go ahead and make sure you like and subscribe and hit the little bell so that you don't miss it when I go live or post something new. And I think that's it. Have a wonderful day. Bye.